something is happening in our world.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up.
This is the meaning of our liberty and our creed, why men and women
becoming politically mature.
And as they become,
As the activists chanted, Black Lives Matter, as well as the
You've been able, but it's already taken from the reaction of the members of my sisters and brothers who've been struggling. It's the happiest day of my life.
Sisters and brothers, the first thing I want to say is that I love you. And the second thing I want to say is that we
Of course you can lie to me,
win.
and you will. If you love me, and you're going off
will
to Maddie
win
someplace, you're lying to me. Because what the hell do I care about the truth? I care if you're there.
why a man whose father left 60 years ago might not have been served at a local restaurant.
We believe that we can win. And if we don't believe that we can win, we'll whip before we start. We've got to realize that dangers
Lie to me, smile.
and we've got to
the same way you would treat him.
realistic.
You're the one who has that power. You can keep Johnson in Washington, D.C., or you can
New York City, Atlanta, Georgia.
The University of Iowa.
The University of Iowa.
The University of Iowa.
University of Iowa.
This one involved a group at the University of Iowa showing their support for demonstrations at another campus.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
Everybody deserves the right to a higher education.
Don't think about what you would do in the 1960s if you were in that era, like during civil rights, because we're in it now.
Almost as a message to our campus that we're fighting for equality and freedom, and to be able to sit in our classrooms and not be ostracized and marginalized.
We're family, we're Black Hawkeyes.
One flow, one thing, one motion, one lane. Everybody can't get in this one, it's only for me. My bag, it fit, hella snug, it's with. Y'all wish y'all can, y'all wish y'all is.
Oh, was that clap? I think you went further. Oh, I'm sorry. I did something like that, pretty much.
Sophomore?
You feeling it, Devin?
Thank you.
Come on, hey, new cookie. There it is. Oh, you got it, D. Come on, D'Angelo.
A haircut, y'all. Do y'all see him? He ain't got a hat on. He got a haircut looking sharp. Looking like a professional. Wow.
Oh, goodness. That is hard to say the best time that I've had at the Afro House. I've had so many good experiences at the Afro House.
Well, I mean, they're most memorable is I think it was when I had first got back from academic dismissal, and my friend from home was here, Brian Hill, who was a student at Iowa, and I can remember us getting together with Greg Kelly and James Lee, who were like the president and the vice president of the Black Student Union. And we would actually go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and get food, and we would come back to the Fro House and watch the Cosby Show.
One more chance. Here is your turkey carving practice cabbage.
Dad, that's a cabbage.
Right. You're brilliant.
Excuse me, boy.
Yeah. And that was such a big deal for us, because the phenomenon of the Cosby Show for us as students and as pop culture representations of African American people in the media, it was a huge deal. And so us being together and sharing that together and breaking bread, watching that was really big deal for us. And then there's a close second, and it is that, and this is so illegal, not illegal bad, but it is. We would break in. We would like climb in. Somebody from our clique, like we would have after sets at the Afro House, where somebody would like climb in a window sometimes, and it would be 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night, and they would set up music and everything, and we would like have a party in the Afro House after somebody like slipped in a window or some type of way. One of the people who were over the Afro House let us in, and so those after set parties were really, really cool. Just for the social aspect of it, but I do not, I do not say that you should participate in that type of activity of breaking and entering into the Afro House to have a party. Come during operational hours of the Afro House. That's my legal requirement.
So to be honest, because I was the assistant manager, a lot of my friends would come hang out. I'd be like, hey, come use the center. You can study here. We weren't as privileged to have a TV set and cable. So what was interesting is when people literally came to the Afro House, a lot of time there would be meals. People would cook, like we have events like that, or people would just hang out. And just recently I had a friend who was sorting through a lot of her pictures, and there's a picture of us hanging upstairs in one of the rooms in the Afro House, just hanging out and talking. So it kind of became like this clubhouse kind of feel to it. So a lot of my friends would stop in. So I have a lot of good memories. I want to say we had an event where we brought out Stokely Carmichael, who came and spoke. So a lot of times we would actually have in guest speakers, and we would use the Afro House as kind of our center point to bring them out, to kind of have like a reception, some kind of interaction that the kids, even though it might have been a larger speaking event, that the students would have greater access and maybe ask some questions that they wouldn't have asked in a larger setting. So for me, I've got memories of just, like I said, Stokely Carmichael, Betty Shabazz spoke at the time when I was there. She was kind of doing the tour about the autobiography of Malcolm X. For those maybe who don't know who Betty Shabazz is. So I have a lot of memories of those kind of people stopping in and having a more intimate conversation with the Black students. So I have a lot of those kind of memories, which are really nice.
My longest running great moment at the Afro House was Hakeem Madhubuti, the poet, formerly Don Lee, taught a writing class there. And so I really loved that, and we met regularly once a week at the Afro House, and so that was a memorable thing.
There were times where we just met there to hang out. My sorority met there for different reasons. So just a good time. I was there to celebrate not this past anniversary, but the celebration before that, where I served as a speaker during that program, and that was a really special time as well, because I hadn't been to the Afro House in so long, and just to have alumni come back. I organized a reunion around that same time, and to have so many alumni come back, those who were there in the early to mid 90s like myself, people who were there before us, people who were there after us, and current students. It's just always a wonderful time when we can congregate there and everyone share their memories of the house.
That's where we would come and meet our friends. We would come there and we would come. It was meeting the right people at the right time that was integral to my success at the university after I got back for academic dismissal. And it was there at the Afro House that I met, some very, very good people who, still keep in contact with the day. And we're talking about, 30 years ago. And so it was those people that I met there at the Afro House. Other times we would have meetings. I wrote my first book in 2017, and one of the sections is actually dedicated to the Afro House. And that's because the Afro House was such a big part of my life and many of the African American students' lives that were there at that time at the University of Iowa. We would have our Black Student Union meetings there. We would have fraternity and sorority meetings there. That was one of the places on campus that had cable, and just laugh and just be together with other like-minded students. And it's a huge part for me, because I met friends there at the Afro House who are still my friends today. And it's a huge part of my life and my experiences at the University of Iowa.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea.
Wherever there's growth that's needed, you're going to need the Afro House when it comes to the University of Iowa.
I think that, even though I've come recently and seen how Iowa City has grown, a lot of it probably hasn't changed. So I think that for people who are experiencing any kind of culture shock, if you will, the Afro House plays a really important role.
But I also feel that we're at a point in time where it can be used as a kind of, I guess you could say, platform for multiculturalism. Just because it's the Afro House, it does not mean that we can't invite other people to come into our home. I was also at Iowa when there was the school shooting, which I'm not, maybe a lot of people have put that back in their minds. I was actually a student there. Matter of fact, I was in that building less than an hour before that happened. It was an odd time because there was a lack of understanding culturally. I remember I lived in Burge at the time. It was my freshman year. And I remember the Asian students walking into the cafeteria and literally people looking at them like they were the scourge of the earth and not wanting them to sit with them. And I remember the black kids looking at them and saying, "Come on, have a seat. Like, we know what it feels like to not be included." And it's sad that it took a situation like that to open the doors and be welcoming. And I think the Afro House could be the reason that we could bridge the gap and create more cultural understanding. So for instance, when you talk about situations with Colin Kaepernick, or when you talk about police injustice, you can become a place where you start to kind of allow those narratives and conversations to happen and have it be an open forum and invite people to come in and talk and share their ideas and learn about your culture as well as they learn about yours. I think the next step is to embrace multiculturalism and to start to share that space with others. I think that would be fantastic to see that.
It's really fundamental to the experience of anybody who's trying to learn how blackness can exist in the future, how diversity can exist if you want to go there, how justice and equality and all of these things we're saying we're trying to create. Well, the Afro House is actually a mini tiny universe where it has been created. So it's something that's of great value to the entire university community.
Their race is always important, and I think on a predominantly white campus like Iowa, that it's important because people of color, in particular African Americans, can feel a certain sense of isolation. And what the African American Cultural Center did, it gave a place for students to come who were feeling that isolation and who needed a sense of belonging.
And I think that the Afro House still serves as a safe space for students. And I think students need to know that there's a place on campus that is dedicated to them, so that if and when something happens, and hopefully, again, it's not just used for things that are damaging or painful, but that there's a space where they can come and they can gather and feel safe and feel it's their own.
We need a monument. I can't even tell you, and I've been on several different campuses, and I haven't seen too many Afro House. And that one there in Iowa City, Iowa, come on. That speaks volume to me. And to take pride in maintaining it, the upkeep, making sure that pictures and furniture and artifacts, different things are there showing of all of the people that have come through, and it just save the Afro House. We need to keep it.
The Afro House represents a vision that people have been holding for a long time, and a project that people have constantly been passing down.
The people who started the Afro House were wonderful advocates, and there were many of them. And so I know that it would mean a tremendous amount, and I'm sure that it means a tremendous amount to them that it continues, and I applaud you all for keeping that spirit going.
You know, don't take away the Afro House. We need it. We, as an Black, African American that lives in Iowa City, they need a place to call home, away from home.